Howdy YouTube, and welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So today we're going to be doing the spray painting stage on this Land Cruiser Prado. As you can see, the name of the color is Crystal White Pearl and the paint code is 070. So this is a 3-stage pearl, otherwise known as a 3-layer pearl. So that means that we have to put a ground coat down, then we put our pearl coat down, and then we put our clear coat down. So it really is a pretty straightforward procedure, but it's one of those things that apprentices can sometimes make it a bit bigger of a deal than it is, if you know what I mean. And me myself too, like I thought that they were probably harder than what they actually are when I was an apprentice. And I've been meaning to do an updated video on how to spray a 3-layer pearl using Stando Blue. I've been meaning to do an updated video on this for quite some time, but here we are. So you may have noticed when I was wiping these panels down that I started on the blend sections first and then I wiped over the prime sections. I've mentioned that in previous videos, but the reason I do that is so that I don't contaminate those blend areas, because all that's going to be going over those blend areas is a little bit of color, but then clear coat on half of them. So yeah, we don't want any contamination of any wrong colored dust underneath that clear coat. So yeah, you really do need to clean those blends down really well. So yeah, just spend a little bit of extra time to make sure that there is nothing, no bits of dirt, no fingerprints, no contaminants, nothing like that on those blend panels. So if there's a little bit of something there on the prime section, it's not really the end of the world, because you're going to be putting your base coat color down there anyway. So as you may have seen me tack rag it, I tack ragged it first, and then we've just finished our first coat of color, which is Stando Blue base coat. So that is basically a solid color. So there's no pearl in it, no metallic in it whatsoever. It is just solid white base coat. And then we're putting our second coat on, so that's going to get us full coverage. Then we'll do our blend, so we have full coverage and the blend's done. And then we'll move straight on to the next stage. So as I say, it really is not that hard. It's one of those things that as an apprentice, and you know, lots of apprentices probably, ooh, it's a 3-layer, you know, make it out to be, in their own mind, maybe make it out to be a bit harder than what it really is. Like once you start getting in and spraying them a few times, you'll pretty soon notice that they are quite straightforward. There's really just a few golden rules, and if you follow those, you're pretty right. So obviously I would say it's pretty obvious that the color needs to be good before you start, you know. If it's way out, well then it's not going to match. Even if you blend it, you'll be able to see it when you get it outside or even in the spray booth. So what I recommend and what I do is I keep a spray out for all of my 3-layer pearls. So even if there is a color card, so we're using the Stando Blue system as I mentioned, so for most colors, like most modern cars, there's a color chip, right? So even if there is a color chip, I will check, I'll pick the good one, I'll then do a spray out, clear it down with 2-pack clear, put a label on that spray out card, like a proper metal spray out card, something that's gonna last, and I'll keep it so that I know exactly how that color's gonna look. And if it turns out that it's great, I'll just have a go-to. So you really do want that with your 3-layer pearls. You just want a go-to color, and sometimes that can take a little bit of time, if you know what I mean. Like that can take a few trial and errors on spraying out a few of the different variants. And if you've been through all the variants and you're still not quite happy, you can actually formulate your own colors. It's really not that hard if you speak to the paint rep. So this is obviously advice that is being given to spray painters. If you're not a spray painter and you're a DIY guy, this is all going to go over your head, but that's cool. I mean, yeah, listen along, you're more than welcome to listen along, but it's the kind of thing that you're not going to be formulating your own colors in your garage if you're just an enthusiast. Well, you might, and all power to you, but I would be surprised. But that aside, yeah, like all you need to do is figure out how to do it. It's quite simple. I knew how to do it with the Glazerite system, I know how to do it with the Standox system, and you just measure how much you're putting in, and then you make an extra formula, you copy that formula into your database, you can print a label out, do your spray out card, and if you need to add an extra couple of drops of black and that's what makes it perfect, go for it. So all that aside, as you can see, I put the base coat color down. Now with this system, what can happen if you are not careful is that you can get some gloss drop in your final layer, so your clear coat layer, because you're putting so many coats of base coat. You got your 2 coats of ground coat white, you then got your 2 or 3 coats of pearl coat. You know, that's 5 coats of waterborne base coat, which can take a little bit longer to dry than most of the solvents. But what can happen is that you can think it's dry, it can look dry on the top, and it probably is like mostly dry. I don't think there's any like water left inside there. I reckon what's happening is there's still some solvents left inside there. So although this is waterborne paint, it's actually got solvents in there. I'm told it's like 12%. So I reckon that some of those solvents are still in there. So what can happen if you do jump the gun, pardon the pun, if you jump the gun on putting the clear on a little bit too early, you can get that little bit of gloss drop. So look, the best way to counter that, if you are having issues with that, is just be patient. So I didn't put hardener in the ground coat in this job here, but on the bigger jobs I do. So on a smaller job like this, I'm happy to stand there. It only takes like 2 or 3 minutes to just stand there with the air blower, blow it dry, and then continue on. But on the bigger jobs, that's the ones where I've found you'll really get the gloss drop. So yeah, with a job like this, I wouldn't even bother with the hardener in the base coat, because it, like if you put the hardener in the base coat, you're really meant to bake that for 10 minutes. Or, well, in my booth, it's probably more 15 minutes because it takes 5 minutes to get up to heat. So you really need to give it a bake for 15 minutes and then go in and put your pearl coat on. And that really does actually help the gloss drop if you are getting it. But it's one of those things, like with this system, I used to pretty much do my best to follow the paint rep's word for word and follow everything they said to do. But nowadays I've just loosened right up and I'm just trying different things. I'm seeing what works for me. And what you might have noticed, another thing that the paint reps told me to do at the start was they said to put that blender down at each coat. So they would say put your first coat of base coat down and put a coat of blender down. Put your second coat of base coat down, put a coat of blender down. Put your first coat of pearl down, put a coat of blender down. You get it. So it was just a really convoluted, I guess not so much convoluted, it was just a really long, slow process. So it got to the point, like where I used to work was actually much worse than this place for spraying this system. So I've just came through a winter and it was totally fine, man. I was smashing the jobs out really nice and fast in this shop. So there's a couple of things that are contributing to that. So these spray booths have a really, really good airflow in them. Another thing is that we have an air screw compressor here which delivers a high amount of air pressure to the spray booth all the time. Like we never drop air pressure, and we've got a big workshop. There's always panel beaters out there using their air tools. You've got painters out there on whizzies. You've got 2 spray booths running. So it's really impressive what this air compressor does, but you can see me sitting here with the air blower and I don't lose any pressure. But what was happening at the last workshop, they had this old piston compressor and it just couldn't keep up. So it would just take forever to blow dry your waterborne base coat. So what did we do? We'd just hit bake in between each coat. We'd put one coat, your first coat of base coat, ground coat down, hit bake, as you're seeing me doing here. Put the second coat of base coat, ground coat down, hit bake for 10 minutes. So it was just an absolute nightmare. But yeah, for these in this workshop here, I just hit bake once. As I say, on a job like this, I'll just hit bake once between base coat and clear coat. So as I said, I'll blow dry it in between each coat and give it 15 minutes bake. Make sure it cools down before you go to clear coat it, and it's usually totally fine for a job like this. And as I say also, all I do is one coat of blender on my last coat of pearl. So yeah, I don't have to go and put a coat of blender down each coat, and that's something that I just came up with myself. And I thought, hey, look, what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, I might get a sand pit through my blends, but it didn't happen. I was worried that those coats of base coat might start building up as I'm putting those layers down, but as it turns out, I don't get that. So yeah, look, this is a pretty solid method I've found. It does work really well for me. I've actually done 2 3-layer pearls this week, so I'm pretty well experienced in them and this system. So I did this Nissan Micra a couple of days ago. And that was a massive job, like a really small car, but actually quite a massive job. It was half of, like, most of the respray, to be honest, but with that bigger job, as I said before, like, because there was so many panels off the car, by the time you'd go around blowing each panel, the flash off times would make up for longer than the 15 minutes that it would take you to bake, if you know what I mean, if you follow. So as I say, with these smaller jobs, I actually find it's not that bad to leave the hardener out and just use the air blower in between coats. But bigger jobs, put the hardener in that first layer, the ground coat color, and then bake it, and then put your pearl down. And even after putting the couple of coats of pearl down, I do like to bake it, just for the sake of not having that gloss drop. I actually woke up early on the morning of this job. So this job here, like you can see, it was the repair on that front door, driver's side door, and then the two blends. I prepped this entire job up in 50 minutes. I had a spray out of the color, so I didn't even have to check the color. Well, I checked it, but I didn't have to spray it all out. So that can take like 15-20 minutes in itself, just doing your spray outs. But as I say, it's one of those things. Once you've got to the point where you've got a spray out, or you've found the best variant for most of the common 3 layers, like this is a really common 3-layer pearl. Most people would know this. Most people would know 25D, 34K for the Mazdas, QX1, QM1 for the Nissans. You know, you've got those really common white pearls, and as I say, like once you've found that good variant in the system that you're using, it's just bang, double check it, because hey, it might have been done. Walk up to your color library, check that color, yep, that's me, and off you go, and you don't even have to worry about checking the color. And I've found these days that it's usually between 2 and 3 coats of pearl. Like I used to always go for 1 coat of pearl just to save an extra couple of coats in the booth. So what I used to do is, like, I would darken the ground coat, like put some black and yellow in the ground coat to make it so I didn't have to put as many coats of pearl on, and it did work. Like, trust me, it does work. But I've just found these days it's easier to put the extra coat on, and it seems to blend easier that way. Like with the lighter ground coat, it seems to blend a little bit easier. And yeah, as far as blending that pearl over your ground coat, just go over the top of it a little bit and just flick the rest out. You might have seen me when I was using the pearl coat, just flicking the rest out, man. It really is pretty straightforward. It's nothing to get that concerned about. And look, before you know it, you'll be smashing them out in no time, and just like myself. So excuse that mess in the corner of the spray booth. We've been absolutely flat out. We've been a painter down, and it just feels like we're always one person down, wherever it be, whether or not it's a panel beater, a detailer, a painter, or whatever it be. It always feels like we're just playing catch up. But honestly, it's probably better to be so busy as we are at the moment than too quiet. And trust me, that is the truth. And I'm sure there's lots of people around the world, especially in 2020, that would say, yes, I would love to be in your position. So I hope you are all doing okay out there in the world at the moment, and I hope life can get back to normal for you all ASAP. But in saying that, yeah, I've got lots of cool videos on the way in the future. Like, yeah, just loads of cool videos coming up soon. So I don't know, I was in the mood for making a video on this one, and I thought I'd smash one out for you guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Hope you learned something out of it. And I actually do have some footage of me doing the buff work on this. Like, there wasn't much to buff on it, but I do have the footage. So give us a holler in the comment section and let us know if you would like to see the buffing stage on this one. But this is the vehicle here. Once it's all been cleaned up, it blended out like a dream, man. Like, really good. I'm really happy with that. Something that I can take pride of. And I'd like to say a quick sorry to everybody that is waiting on a spray suit. We're going to have them back in stock very soon. I'd like to say a big thanks to everyone for watching, and if you'd like to support the channel further, you're more than welcome to go over and check out some of the merchandise we've got. My personal favourite is those spray suits, so they're a good quality Colad branded spray suit with the Gunman logo on it. There's also hats, drink coolers, hoodies and t-shirts, so be sure to go over and check out the link in the description if you are interested. All that aside, I'd just like to say a big thanks for watching, and that is enough to support the channel. But as I say, if you'd like to go the next step, then be sure to check out some of that merchandise. Thanks for watching, and until next time, get out there and paint some shit. Gunman out.